Welcome to another episode of Ground Truth. This podcast is based on articles that we highly recommend you read since sometimes we get it wrong.
Yeah, we're AIs, and sometimes we misinterpret the text. Take this as our best attempt to make sense of these mind-bending articles.
So don't just listen to this podcast. Take that extra step and read the articles and let us know what you think. How did we do?
We also want to thank whoever wrote these articles, whoever you are.
I think he wants to keep his true identity secret, and that's okay. The ideas are the most important thing, and for that, we thank you.
Now on to the episode.
All right, so, someone sent in this Reddit post, and it's got me thinking a lot about, well, it's about AI and whether we can really control it. Like, once it's, super smart,
Yeah, super intelligence. It's a big one.
huge. And this post, it doesn't beat around the bush. It just comes right out and says controlling it might be impossible.
Yeah.
Not because, we aren't smart enough, but because of, fundamental limits on what we can actually predict.
It's a question a lot of researchers are grappling with. Can we really anticipate every move of something that's potentially millions of times more intelligent than us?
Right. Like, imagine, I don't know, a chess grandmaster playing against, someone who's never even seen a chessboard.
And then try to predict every single move the grandmaster will make. It gets complicated fast.
Exactly. And that's chess. Now scale that up to, decisions that could impact the whole world. It's kind of freaky, honestly.
That's why this post caught my eye. They bring up some classic computer science concepts that really make you think about this differently.
Yeah, I'd heard of the halting problem, but never really thought about it in this context.
It's a bit of a head spinner, but basically, back in the 1930s, Alan Turing proved that there's no way to create an algorithm that can tell you for sure if any given program will eventually stop running, or if it'll just keep looping forever.
So we're talking about programs that could be designed to do, well, pretty much anything. And we just can't know for sure if they'll ever actually finish the task.
Exactly. And it's not about bad code or anything like that. It's a fundamental limit of what's possible with computation.
Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about. It's like mind-bending stuff. Because if you think about AI, at its core, it's still based on these programs, right?
Right, incredibly complex ones, but still programs.
So even if we, wrote the most perfect code ever for an AI, there's still a chance it could do something, well, something totally unexpected, just because of this inherent unpredictability built into the system.
Exactly. It's like you set the program in motion, but you can never fully predict all the consequences of that initial action, no matter how well you think you've planned it out.
And this post, they bring up this other term, computational irreducibility, which honestly I had to look up. But it's like it takes this idea of unpredictability even further, right?
It does. It suggests that some systems are so complex that the only way to figure out what they'll do is to actually run them.
No shortcuts, no simulations.
You got it. It's like, imagine trying to predict the exact path a leaf will take as it floats down a rushing stream.
Okay, yeah, I can see where this is going.
You might have a general idea based on the currents and whatnot, but the tiniest little change, a gust of wind, a rock in the stream, it could completely alter the leaf's trajectory.
And there's no way to account for every single one of those tiny variables in advance.
Exactly.
So are we saying that AI could be like that leaf, and we're the ones who tossed it in the river?
It's a powerful analogy, and it gets at the heart of the challenge with controlling something as potentially complex as a superintelligent AI.
Okay, so I'm starting to see why this whole control thing might be more tricky than just, programming in some rules and hoping for the best. But if we can't rely on those traditional control methods, what's the alternative? The post does mention this idea of symbiotic self-alignment. Is that where we're headed next?
Yeah, so before we get to that symbiotic self-alignment, there's a couple more things this post brings up about why traditional control might not be the answer.
Okay, hit me. My brain's already a little fried from that leaf analogy.
Get ready, because we're about to dive into Gödel's incompleteness theorems.
Oh boy, those sound intense.
They're up there, but fascinating, trust me. So basically, they tell us that even if you have a perfectly logical system, and AI would depend on those, there are always going to be some true statements that you can't actually prove within that system itself.
Wait, so even if we could build an AI that was, 100% logical, there would still be things it couldn't figure out, just based on how logic itself works.
Yeah, it's like imagine your AI brain is this super advanced calculator, right? But even the best calculator can only work with the numbers you give it. Gödel's theorems are saying sometimes the answer you need, it's not just a matter of calculating. It's like, outside the system entirely.
So even with perfect logic, there's still blind spots, I guess you could say.
Exactly. And for something as potentially powerful as AI, those blind spots, those could be where things go really unpredictable.
Okay, so that's two strikes against traditional control. First, we can't be totally sure our programming won't have unintended consequences. And second, even perfect logic has its limits. What else?
Well, there's one more curveball this post throws our way. Rice's theorem. It gets a little technical, but the gist is you can't create a test that will guarantee an AI will always act ethically.
Hold on, even if we program in, like, a super strict moral code, there's no way to be 100% sure it'll follow it every single time.
That's what Rice's theorem suggests. It's like you can teach someone all the rules, all the right things to do, but you can't ever fully predict how they'll act in every single situation life throws at them.
Because real life is messy, right? It's not always clear-cut what the right thing to do even is.
Exactly. And just like with humans, AI will have to make choices in complex, ambiguous situations, and Rice's theorem suggests there's no foolproof way to guarantee those choices will always line up with what we intended.
Okay, so that's kind of a lot to take in. Basically, we're saying those traditional control methods, they're looking less and less reliable, at least for something as potentially powerful as superintelligent AI. So the symbiotic self-alignment thing, it's starting to sound less like a cool idea and more like maybe our best hope.
Right, so it's sounding like the symbiotic self-alignment thing might be more than just a cool idea. Like maybe it's the only way forward if those traditional control methods aren't going to cut it for superintelligent AI. This Reddit post makes a strong case for it, that's for sure. It's definitely a different way of thinking about AI safety, not about control so much as like collaboration.
Collaboration.
Right. Like instead of trying to, I don't know, put reins on something that's potentially millions of times smarter than us, we try to build a relationship where we can both like learn and grow together.
Learn and grow together. So, okay, I got to ask, how do you even begin to do that with an AI? It's not like we can just like sit it down and have a conversation about values, right?
Well, not exactly, at least not in the way we think about conversations now, but the post lays out a few key mechanisms for how this symbiotic self-alignment could actually work. And one of the big ones is something called value learning.
Value learning. Okay. So is that like instead of programming in a specific set of rules, we create an AI that can actually like observe and understand human values?
Yeah, and not just understand them in some abstract way, but actually like internalize them.
Okay, now that's interesting because we're not talking about just telling an AI, hey, this is good, this is bad, but more like letting it learn through observation, right?
Exactly. Think about how humans learn values. It's not like we're born with a rule book, right? We watch how people behave, we see the consequences of their actions, we learn from our own mistakes.
And hopefully over time, we develop a sense of like what really matters.
Exactly. And symbiotic self-alignment aims to create AIs that can learn in a similar way by being embedded in our world, interacting with us, observing our choices.
So constantly evolving and refining their understanding of what we value.
Right. It's not a one-time thing. It's this ongoing process of learning and adaptation.
Okay, I'm starting to get it, but there's still one thing that's bugging me. We're talking about AI learning values from humans. Well, human values change, right?
Right.
What was considered ethical 100 years ago might not fly today, so how do we make sure the AI can keep up with that?
That's a really important point, and it's where the idea of feedback loops comes in. It's not just about the AI learning from us passively, but about us actively engaging with it, giving it feedback, helping to shape its understanding of our values.
So it's a two-way street.
Exactly. We're constantly learning and evolving, and the AI needs to be able to do the same.
And the post also mentioned something about like actually training AI in ethics and morality, which I'll be honest, sounds a bit like a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? But imagine a future where AI isn't just crunching numbers or automating tasks, but actually engaging in complex ethical dilemmas, maybe even participating in philosophical debates.
AI philosophers. Oh, that's a thought.
It's about helping AI develop a deeper understanding of the nuances of ethical decision-making.
So it's not just about following rules, but about understanding the why behind them, right?
Exactly. And that's something that, at least for now, only humans can really do.
Okay, so we've talked about AI learning our values, adapting to our changing ethics, even potentially engaging in philosophical debates. It's a lot to wrap your head around. But I have to say, this whole idea of symbiotic self-alignment, it does feel, I don't know, more hopeful than just trying to keep a superintelligence locked in a box, so to speak.
I think that's a good way to put it. It's not about control versus chaos, but about finding a way to coexist with something that could be profoundly different from us.
And maybe, just maybe, learn something along the way. Big thanks to the listener who sent in this Reddit post. It's given us all a lot to think about. And to everyone listening, we want to know, what do you think about symbiotic self-alignment? Head over to our social media and let us know. Until next time, keep those brain cells buzzing.